This is the J-Pitt Show. I saw on my Facebook yesterday, I screenshot it and sent it to you. It was a political ad sponsored by the National Association of Realtors. You know, what makes me mad about it, my dues are going somewhere for them to sponsor political ads when I might not support that person or might vote for somebody else. I don't know if, like, I assume the general public is getting those ads as well, sponsored by National Association of Realtors, and I'm sure they don't think anything of it, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way that ads are being ran on our behalf with our dues.
I do agree with that.
When I might not support that person at all.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think it just underscores how kind of broken I don't want to say politics, although I think that would be applicable. I think the business of campaigning is very broken. Like, it shouldn't be a business at all, but political campaigns having as much money and influence embedded, that's actually a very topical with primaries here in Kentucky that took place yesterday. I think we had the most money spent in a National House of Representatives primary race in the history of the United States. Spent most of that was the Republican Party backing a candidate in opposition to Thomas Massie, the incumbent, who has voted against. I think he's voted with the Republican Party 75% of the time. I didn't do any research. This is just out there in the ether, and that I didn't check these stats, so don't come for me if these are not right. But the average, I think I heard that a Republican House member votes with the party something like 95%, whereas Massie voted like 74%. And so they spent a lot of money campaigning for his primary challenger. And it worked. He conceded the election last night, and there's a new candidate for the Republican nomination for the House seat that's coming up for election in November. All that to say, I don't condone that. I don't endorse that. I'm not a political person. I just think it's probably equivalent on both sides. The ickiness of so much money in politics. I think there were new records set for campaigning in the last presidential election. I think in that case it was on the Democrat side. Billions with a B spent campaigning for a presidential nominee. It's pretty sad. And in this case with realtors, this is not a new thing. It's what I told you yesterday when we discussed it. Part of our dues, even like the line item on your bill when you pay dues, if you pay attention, anymore they're like paid online, and there's not like a paper invoice and not as much attention drawn to it. It's easy to just kind of click the box, pay now, and be done, so that you don't get your MLS access shut off. But there's a $25 or $50 line item for political action committee donations, and it's the Realtor RPAC, the Realtor Political Action Committee. I've been lobbied by a number of very influential people within the industry to get more involved and make more of a donation, encourage more support to Realtor political action committees. And I'm not for that. I don't want to be politically connected. I believe that the intent is to do good work for realtors, to vet politicians that supposedly will make decisions and make votes in favor of legislation that supports our industry. But I feel like, what difference can I make, really? What is right? Everything's so obscured. As with politics in general, politics surrounding real estate, everything's so obscured. Everything's so confusing. Everything's so doublespeak. I don't want to be part of supporting a system that I believe is very flawed, regardless of whether it creates a more positive outcome for me. And I don't even think that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Okay. I will say, and I think like part of the story here, you know, that we're talking about is who it was for. So I'm going to say it. It was for Andy Barr, who's a U.S. Senate candidate on the Republican side in his primary election against Daniel Cameron. He did win. But honestly, I'll tell exactly what I told you yesterday, which is that this is the first time I've ever seen an ad, okay, purchase for RPAC. And I could be corrected in this case. It's the first time I've ever witnessed an ad for a Republican candidate. The majority of the ads I've seen paid for by RPAC have been Democrat candidates. Not that that's wrong, right, or indifferent. But my perception as someone who's been doing this a long time is that the majority of the RPAC money goes to support Democrat candidates. It was interesting to me that the first one that you noticed was actually the only one I've ever seen that supported a Republican candidate. And again, it was in a primary, and maybe that has something to do with it. Don't really know. But I'm like you. I don't think our dues money should go to supporting any political candidates.
Yeah.
Right? Like the politicians find enough money to run these multi-million-dollar campaigns, even for relatively low-level seats. This happens to be a U.S. Senate campaign, so it's not a low-level seat. But I think they're going to be just fine without our $25 to $50 that's included in our dues. And frankly, I know a lot of agents that short pay their dues, and technically you're not required to make a political action committee donation. So though your invoice may say that you owe $900, if you pay $850 and that $50 is, and I'm making these numbers up because I don't remember the exact numbers, so don't come for me for the numbers. But let's just say you've got a $900 invoice to the Greater Louisville Association of Realtors.
I think it's $25.
And if you expand it and it's okay, say 25, and
because I click off of it every time.
Because if you click off of that and pay $875, you're not. I mean, you're short paying the total invoice, but like you paid your dues. You didn't pay your political donation, which you were not required to do in any way, shape, or form. I think the fact that they just kind of hide it from you and just kind of put it on there and think that they're going to benefit from the fact that people are too busy to pay attention or question, I think is really unfortunate. It's an interesting thing. I just think we ought to we ought not to prey upon the fact that people are too busy to notice that they're making a political donation. It ought to have to be like a separate action to seek out, like it is in every other situation. Like why? And I mean, I'm sure there are other professional organizations that do the same thing. That they didn't make that up. It wasn't their idea. Wasn't this novel idea that RPAC came up with? I mean, it probably happens in other trade organizations, but it's sneaky and unfortunate regardless.